We have at least 5:30. I'd like to call this meeting to order. I'd like to ask first that we all rise for the pledge and remain standing for a moment of silence. Justin, would you lead us in the pledge?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We want to welcome you all to our special meeting tonight. First of all, there's only one item. Madam, Ms. Trostia, do you have any comments, opening remarks or anything? Okay. We have a quorum, so we'll go to agenda item 2, discussion concerning a cooperative endeavor agreement between the Lafayette Parish School Board, LUS Fiber, Link and Learn LLC for student internet services.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion, please.
Yes, sir.
That the board authorizes the superintendent to enter into the attached cooperative endeavor agreement with LUS Fiber and Link and Learn LLC for student internet services.
Second.
A motion by Mr. Latchley and seconded by Mr. Centeni. I'm sorry. Any comments from any members of the audience concerning the motion? Any comments from any members of the board relative to the motion? Mr. Centeni.
Mr. President, if you wouldn't mind, I'd like to ask Todd Mouton with Lincoln Learn LLC and the Pew Family Foundation to come to the podium and maybe give us a few pointers on what this program entails and what we're trying to achieve.
Certainly.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you. Basically, the belief is that complex community solutions require complex community challenges require collaborative solutions. And the number of children in our community who are unable to access learning resources in a ubiquitous, year-round, 24/7, 365 manner is an unacceptable condition right now. And for the last couple years, since the pandemic, the foundation partners in the room and elsewhere have been working to try to extend the reach of your campuses into children's homes and parents' homes. And during phase 1, we worked with the school system to deploy every possible solution. Wi-Fi enabled buses, access points in the parking lot, a help desk, low-cost programs from providers, and we achieved a lot of great success in that first phase. In the second phase, we tried to figure out how we could get free academic filtered Wi-Fi into students' homes, and we tested a very cutting-edge, very high-speed, very secure technology that in the end was not a good fit for our community. That project was funded by about $185,000 in philanthropic contributions. Since that time, we were fortunate to meet a few different folks and learn about some new solutions. And there's this company called SmartWave, and we worked with LUS Fiber and InfoLink here locally to design, and we're asking you guys tonight to join us in funding the first outdoor Wi-Fi 6 network, it's believed, in the world. Wi-Fi 6 is a new standard, and we are proposing installing approximately 203 radios on streetlights that would extend your academic Wi-Fi to approximately 2 mile across circle. And this is kind of uncharted waters for a lot of folks, and our strong belief is that if we do not get out and test and pilot the solution, not only will these conditions persist, but we won't be able to bring additional partners and additional funding to the party to help us solve this community problem. So what we're asking tonight is that we all agree to join forces and be leaders, and to lead this region, to lead this state, and really to lead the nation, and possibly even in some respects the world, by bringing the very best to our community and allowing our students a chance to benefit from that. There are many, many steps to this process. It's envisioned to maybe be a 10-phase project, and we believe there'll be not only additional funding partners, but there'll be a scalability effect where costs will come down. The main factor will be demand and usage. We believe that through Love Our Schools and other community partners, we can incentivize teachers and students to use this system and to have friendly academic competitions and to start taking our community farther down the road of, you know, achievement and most importantly, equity. That's kind of a clumsy explanation, but happy to take questions.
Yes, sir, Mr. Centennial.
Thank you, Mr. President. It's really more of a comment. I've really enjoyed participating with you guys every step of the way, all the way back to when we were trying to knock on doors and get people to sign up for internet. And we rode a bus around Moss Street trying to see where we could catch the signal from the LUS termination station. And up to now, I'm you know, consistently optimistic and not disappointed. You know, I'm excited to try again. I did want to recognize Mr. Ryan Mesh, our partner with LUS Fiber. Thank you very much for all of the effort that you've put into this, and Ms. Erica Ray with the Schumacher Foundation. Thank you very much for this. And then, of course, Mr. Nick Pugh of the Pugh Family Foundation, who I only half-jokingly say if you put a technical challenge in front of Nick Pugh, it's going to get solved. And he hasn't given up on it yet, so I'm not going to give up on it yet either. Can you explain just real quick? You know, I've looked at the potential budget numbers there. Can you explain where the decision points are going to be on, you know, exit strategy, right? So, you know, you mentioned what's the demand? Are we going to be able to get federal grant money? Are we going to get other community philanthropic dollars helping us out with this? I'm excited to try, right? Like, I'll fail trying before failing with no effort whatsoever. What are the exit points going to be? Where are the decision points going to be? When are we, do you think, in your mind, I know you can't know every answer with definitive, but what is the, I guess, when are we going to know it's not going to scale? When are we going to know that it's not being used? When are we going to know these crucial factors that are going to go into continued funding and continued progress?
I would think that we'd be back at the table, you know, not quite a year from now. You know, it's a contemplated, it's a 5-year agreement, and each year, you know, we have the option to renew, continue, or extend. And as I mentioned, a lot of these costs, this is really kind of unexplored areas. So once we're all working together, sharing details of our expenses and our, again, it's pursuing additional revenue sources, I think that, you know, it's pitched as a 5-year agreement, and I've been asked, like, well, how soon can we build out the other phases? And again, it's sort of all dependent on starting. And but I think there's lots of perforations in there where you can say, you know what, the costs are actually more expensive. The demand and uptake is less than we thought. These other initiatives are maybe not creating the synergy we wanted. But I think that we've put a lot of time into it these last few years, and a lot of folks in this room have put a lot of time into these issues. And these are just difficult problems. And a couple of the solutions we tried, we were fully confident would solve it. But, you know, this is, again, just back to that earlier point, I think this is really important to look at this as a chance to lead and say that we're gonna stick our neck out to give our kids the best, because we know there are other folks that are gonna come to the table to help us create things that we've never even envisioned were possible. And just to use the example that the superintendent's given before about someone working on a science fair project, you know, in the cloud on a spreadsheet, and someone across town working on a poster board. You know, this is not what we want for our community. It's not the equity we want.
And then finally, Mr. President, I'll mention that the company that is making the radios, is that right? The company that is making the radios, the owner of that company, the founder of that company, used to wear Kelly green, Mr. Latchley.
He used to?
When he was a teenager.
Yeah, there's a fascinating tie-in. I mean, this Wi-Fi 6 standard, I mean, Chromebooks I don't think have even shipped with Wi-Fi 6. But this is the company that makes these Wi-Fi radios. Yeah, their CEO is actually a graduate of Lafayette High School. And the thing to note is that even without a Wi-Fi 6 device, this is going to be a very fast, very advanced network. It's going to literally be the best. And it just so happens that these access points have just begun shipping. We've got the first couple hundred here in town already. And we are on schedule, should we move forward, to be the first known in the U.S. and, again, possibly the world. And that's great. It's great to have a great tool, but it's driving the use and driving the educational innovation and you know, empowering teachers and inspiring teachers to do more with these tools to reach more kids in more effective ways.
Yes, ma'am, Ms. LeBoon.
First off, I'd just like to thank, obviously, the Schumacher Foundation, Erica, Nick Pugh, the Pugh Foundation, Todd, all your work in LUS for partnering with us on this. My question is, I know in the contract you said that you would oversee the operation and management of the project, and I guess at what point, or does that include outreach to additional partners? How much do you expect us to do that outreach to find those grants, those partnerships, those dollars, and how much do you anticipate that you would be doing that part?
You know, we're forming sort of this task force, steering committee, work group, whatever you want to call it. It's evolved a lot over these last couple of years. We've had, I mean, there are, I think, over 30 organizations that have partnered with us at different points in the Lincoln Learn Initiative. And I think that we're going to essentially, as a foundation, much like this body, you know, we're being transparent and is an important part of anything we do. And so all this budget information, the way this technology works, we're going to create a group of fund seekers, of revenue generators, to try to publicize these efforts, to try to bring other partners to the table. And again, I think we're going to start getting a lot of notoriety once this system's up. But I think there's going to be a few different things. There's going to be like sort of an educational group working on the content and what we're doing there. And then there's going to be a group working on sort of the recruitment and the incentivizing. The network will cover it'll be sort of on top of Northside High School, J.W. Falk Elementary, and this first phase, David Thibodeau STEM Academy and Magnet Academy. And particularly those 500 plus students at Northside, we want to really see what we can accomplish there in terms of engaging those educators. So I think it's going to be multi-pronged. There's going to be like the outreach, there's going to be the content, and then there's going to be the support. And as more technology comes on board, again, we are hopeful that things will get faster, more efficient, more economical. But we really feel like now's the time. I keep saying this, we need to get in the game if this is what we want to do as a community. And so I appreciate, again, y'all's contemplating leading in this effort.
Yeah, thank you for the collaboration, the innovation, just all that you're doing to support the school system, because we know this is the future tool that the kids need to be successful. So we appreciate all you're doing to put that in everyone's hands, so across the board and every school. Thank you.
Yes, sir, Mr. Latchley.
I just wanted to send a little word across to Dr. Chasson. Thank you for your involvement. Thank you for what you've done and the conversations and the explaining and so forth and so on. Being involved but not being able to be involved as much, it was good to know you were there and were there to answer questions, so forth and so on. So thanks for being a part of it and taking the lead. I mean, we all have our little parts we play here around this horseshoe. But I just wanted to publicly tell you thank you, and thank you for the good conversations.
Any other comments? Yes, sir, Mr. Broussard.
I too want to applaud everybody that's involved in it. Certainly thank you all for your efforts and the time and finance you're putting in there and what we are doing. What concerns me, and I've said this many, many times, is how do we get the word out? How do we take this what we're trying to perfect and make sure the community knows that it's there? Do we have the schools, the David Thibodeau, the Northside, Falk, do we have some programs there for the teachers, the kids, and perhaps the parents to let them know that this is available to them? And in order for this to be successful on every part, it has to be utilized. How do we do that? Because it makes no sense for us to put all of this effort in there and it just sits there. You know, the kids looking at something on the post, they may think it's a camera, don't know what it's there for. So how do we get the word out that this is there for our educational use? And we're making progress. We're getting better. We are the first on the block to do certain things, and you know, we're growing, we're going and growing with it. We need to do that. We need to make sure the public is aware of the efforts that we're putting forward, and it's for the public as well.
I share your concern, and I think that fortunately, you know, the partners in this room, we've been working together for several years now on a lot of initiatives. So even just from the public information aspect, from the internal marketing here in the district, from working with educator groups through the different training programs, and certainly working through Love Our Schools, which, you know, has launched cafes in 9 schools and has just hired a cafes coordinator to work at United Way on all those projects. I think we have a lot of opportunity to get out to folks and get the word out. And another thing that's fun about all this technology is that it's metrics based. Everything is empirical. We can tell you who's using it, who's not using it, how many people we've talked to, how many doors we've knocked on, how many flyers have gone home in book sacks. And I think that, you know, I just was flashing on something Nick told me a minute ago. He said, you know, the pathway to an A leads through the sky. And giving this internet to the doorstep, this academic content to students and to teachers as a tool. So there's things that can happen after school, and there's online chatting and Zooming and all this that can be done with supervision, you know, with the proper filtering. I think that that's an attractive prospect, but to your point, there's a lot of explaining that has to go with what these benefits are and the capacity of this network. And this is about, you know, Love Our Schools we spruced up several campuses a few years ago. This is also another form of infrastructure, and I think we're really ready to promote it and to really try to publicize it, and again, bring more people to the party. And we want this district to be literally the best, and not just in the region, but beyond. And we think this is, you know, one piece of the puzzle.
And Mr. Broussard, I think one of the best ways for folks to understand that it's there and the outreach is that our teachers will be able to actually assign assignments that kids can complete at home, which they currently cannot do. So as far as for equitable access for students, this is also equitable instruction for our teachers who can't assign the same rigorous, meaningful activities because of the lack of connectivity for their students. So through their being able now to assign work and educational opportunities to children, that's one of the best ways that we'll be able to do outreach to our families.
If there's no other comments, I'd just like to make a quick comment. I'm sorry, you had your hand? Timmy, I'm sorry.
Yes, sir. I just wanted to thank everyone really quickly. I won't be long. I want to thank Todd Mouton and the Pugh Family Foundation. I wanted to personally thank Nick Pugh and Joanne Pugh. I wanted to thank Erica Ray and the Schumacher Family Foundation, as well, Dr. Kip and Caroline Schumacher. I want to thank Sasha personally as well, and John Fitzgerald, Superintendent Irma Trosclair, Ryan Mesh, Ryan DiMaggio, and just all my fellow board members from the bottom of my heart. Like, this means a whole lot to me. We lived in Holy Family Apartments from 2004 to 2009, and those were the very first formative years for my daughter, who's now a sophomore in college. And it was rough with internet back then. And I'm talking about 2 college grads, and we're staying in Section 8 housing, trying our hardest. So you don't have to necessarily be on one end of the spectrum or not. Like, internet is internet, and we struggled with it. Like, it was a struggle. We'd have to leave and go to my mom's house. So I physically witnessed this equipment getting put up on the corner of Buick and Louisiana Avenue, and it was the coolest thing. I mean, I hugged the pole and everything. It was like, it was just awesome to see. And just, it's amazing how technology works and how folks understand technology a whole lot better than I do. So just from the bottom of my heart, I sincerely appreciate the pilot program being at Holy Family. I would hear someone say, well, we had a small hiccup or we had a small problem. And it's like, but you guys are going to figure it out. I have faith in you. Just the fact that we're trying, like, it's huge, it's monumental. And for someone to say first in the city or first in the state or first in the nation our first period. Like, that's just amazing, guys. Folks will fly here to figure out what we're doing, and we're doing it, and all of y'all should be thanked for it. Like, you should be famous for it, because you're providing something that is just a socioeconomic hurdle for so many folks, and it was a hurdle for us. So, like, thank you. Every single one of y'all, I appreciate y'all. Thanks.
Dr. Schultz, I want to thank you very much for naming the partners. Obviously, I couldn't have named them. I forgot Britt's name. We appreciate you. I did want to delve back a few years in my other political life in Karen Crow. It was always an advantage. It was always a pleasure when you could take the public's money, which is what we do here. We spend public money. And it's always an added advantage when you can take public money and partner it, whether it's in actual dollars or services rendered, and put it together. So if it's whatever that amount is, sometimes it's double or triple what the public responsibility is, or what the public's money that's spent on. So anytime we can do things like this, it magnifies the amount of public money that we're spending, and I think it's a wonderful way to spend public money when you can match it with other public money. It's one thing to try to get a grant where it's 100% public, but it's much better when you can match it with other entities and really snowball the double and triple the amount of public money, of public expenditure. With that, if there's no other comments, I'm sorry, Ms. LeBou.
I'm sorry. I just wanted to reiterate the mission statement of the Lafayette Parish School Board. The Lafayette Parish School System, in collaboration with stakeholders, is committed to developing productive citizens prepared to compete in a global community. And really, to compete in a global community, this is what we need to do. So I just really appreciate everything that y'all are doing to try to bring this before us and give our students every chance to be able to compete in a global community, so that one day they can come back here and improve Lafayette Parish, just like the inventor of or the designer of the radios is doing for the students of Lafayette Parish now. Thank you.
If not, if there are no other comments, I'll call for the vote. Motion carries unanimously. I'm sorry, Ms. Trussler?
Yes, I would like to just make a few short comments, Mr. Tommy. Mr. Tommy tells me how short he likes our meetings to be. I promise this will be short. Since I came to Lafayette Parish early on, I think maybe 2015, Todd might know better than I do. I've 16 somewhere. But when I came here, what I always noticed about that board, and I see the same practices and commitment from this board, is doing whatever it takes for children. And so we talk a lot about closing the academic gaps, and certainly that's what our staff and you all focus on. That's what we're expected to do. But the terms academic gaps, in my mind, makes it sound like there's something wrong with the students, like they can't learn. Ahead of academic gaps are always opportunity gaps, and that's what we're seeing here. We will never close opportunity gaps for children academic gaps, if we don't work to close the opportunity gaps for kids. And now with technology and the fact that the majority of learning is done that way, we're going to see academic gaps only widen. If we as adults don't provide equitable opportunities for our kids. And that's what you all, by your action tonight, by your action in the past, have always done as a board. I appreciate that on behalf of children, that you're committed to not hold kids accountable for what they have no control over. So whether or not their families can afford, or whether or not a family chooses not to, as adults, you all as an elected body, by your action and your votes, what we can do as adults to close opportunity gaps, we must do. And I want to thank you for always advocating for kids through the way that you support them by your action. Community, I think what we're a good example of is when you let community into our schools, they form partnerships and they work right along with us. And that's what I want to say to all of you in the room, and to those other partners that aren't here. You're not the fly-by-night folks. You're with us, and you're committed, and you advocate. And it's been such a pleasure to do this work with you all. And I know we have a long way to go, but this is a giant step toward equitable access to learning for kids and equitable teaching for teachers. And in closing, Brandon here is an attorney for the Schumacher Group and is a Northside High School graduate, by the way. So I just wanted to throw that out there as well. But thank you to everybody. I'm really excited for kids to come a step closer to closing some of those gaps that we have. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We appreciate you. Thank you. This meeting is adjourned.